Hi, welcome to Drama Means. We're talking about My Love Mix-Up, the 2024 Thai BL drama. Today, drama means adaptation, drama means puppy love, and drama means trying to live up to the original.
And first, here's a little bit of a summary. A young schoolboy's heart is broken when he finds out the girl he likes actually likes someone else. But being a good friend, he sets out to help her win her crush over, only to find himself falling in love with the very same person, which turns out to be not her actual crush at all.
So yes, this is the Thai version. I think it was 2 years ago that the Japanese version came out, which is based off of the manga.
So this one's an adaptation of an adaptation.
Well, I think this is more based off the manga than the original, actually, because I think when the Japanese version was filming, the manga wasn't completed yet.
Okay, so they were trying to get ahead of it while it was still kind of hot in the culture.
Yeah. And so, but it kind of ended before the manga ended. So the Thai one actually follows through the entirety of the manga.
Now, did the producers and writers of the series, were they given the inside scoop by the writers of the manga how it was supposed to end? Were they doing the George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones? Hey, George, tell us how it ends before you write the books.
Well, the manga's finished before this aired.
Before the Japanese one aired?
Before the Thai one aired.
Yeah, so I guess I'm wondering, did the Japanese one, were they involved with the manga at all to know where it went, or did they just go to a point and then they were just on their own?
They went to the point where the manga was up to. So I think it was volume 5 or 6 was where the Japanese one finished.
Okay, so the series finished where the manga was up to?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So
this is a more complete story because they had more source material to go on.
Yes.
Yes. I'm with you now.
Which I do really appreciate, and I like that. So I do have to say the first 4 episodes of this Thai one was a little awkward and off-putting because I think it took Forth, who plays Adam, more time to really get the character. And I think maybe he was trying a little too hard to imitate Machida and how he played his character in the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, the first 3 episodes, I'm I don't know if I'm going to continue watching this.
Was it mostly because of the acting?
It was the acting. And the thing is, the problem is I've seen Forth do so much better. And it's just, I think there was a lot of pressure to make this a good project, that maybe that burden was on his shoulders. So he just looked like he was trying too hard. But after episode 4, he settled in and he was a little bit more natural.
It is a really hard thing to ask an actor to, take something someone else has already done and remake it. A lot of actors would tell you they won't even watch the original, and not out of disrespect to the original, but they just don't want the performance and the choices of another actor dictating their choices, because then the character's not really their own, and you're just going to end up with basically a watered down version of the original.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you hear actors say, I actually fully believe this, that they're not saying it out of ego and no, I'm the best actor, but they're no, I want to give a genuine performance. And it's very hard to do that if you've watched someone else do this already. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he really did step up after episode 4. He did a lot better, especially in the later episodes when it has to do with the parents, or their parents, and getting approval by them and things like that. They did change some things in this drama. I think one of the main things that they changed was Half's character.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, Half's character is better than Ida's character.
Interesting. How so?
So in the manga, Ida is a playboy. He's flirting with all the girls. He he kind of tries to hook up with this one girl, and it turns out this girl has a boyfriend, and like the boyfriend like comes to beat him up. Like he's kind of a skeezy character in the manga, and then in the Japanese version he's very like aloof and kind of like the way he treated Hashimoto was very like nonchalant, very like whatever.
Too cool for school. I don't need anything. Whatever.
But yeah, but it's more like, oh yeah, like I could take you or leave you kind of attitude.
Casual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but with Half's character in this Thai version, is he truly wanted to be friends with her, didn't understand why she's upset with him. And I don't know, maybe it's the actor, like he was able to play it where like he feels naive and genuine. And then there's a point that this drama specifically made was when Half remembered her, and because at first like she's had a crush on him, and then he's like, I don't really remember you, and, like the incident of that made you have a crush on me, like I don't really remember that. And then when he remembered it, those feelings of, oh yeah, I remember, I actually am interested in her too.
Oh, interesting.
And so it just plays it like more like he's more genuine towards her, and that the effort that he puts towards her is more shown than both the Japanese version and the manga version.
And so they fleshed out his character a little bit. And it's something we kind of keep coming back to a lot of how do you make secondary characters in the second relationship fully fleshed out and not just a pairing of the spare characters and make them actually like have dramatic turns. And so it sounds like they really tried to find that in the Thai version of this.
Yeah, which I really appreciate. They did change the part where I don't know if I like it or not like it. But so in both the manga and in the Japanese version, there's a tutor character that he's like an alumni of the high school. He comes back and he's like trying, he's like doing an internship type thing because he's going to be a teacher soon after he graduates from college. And he tutors Aoki, and basically finds out like they're like chummy, and he wants to be a good big bro to Aoki. And then he finds out that Aoki and Ida are dating, and then has a total like homophobic like, get away from me, I'm not into guys, and immediately think all people who are gay like sell their bodies.
Yeah, all those dumb misconceptions, like from like that steer from like the 70s,
yeah,
and the 80s of like, oh no, you're gay. That means I might get some on me. Like that kind of weird.
Yeah, and so it was very dated kind of feeling, but I think the reason why it was in the manga and the Japanese version was because of meeting Aoki and Ida and realizing his mistake and seeing himself in a bad light, he kind of learns from it. And so I think that was the purpose of his character. In the Thai version, they completely erased that character, and now it's a counselor character.
Okay.
And he's just trying to like badger Adam about like what he's gonna pick for his like major when he goes off to college, or like what he's gonna do with his future kind of thing. And so Adam is really nervous that the counselor's seeing, him and Ida dating, but really the counselor is like, I accept it. I have my own significant other, and it's totally fine. And in turn, Adam kind of learns from him.
Okay.
And being able to accept himself and like be more comfortable with the public accepting him. So that is a big turn and difference between the manga Japanese version and the Thai version. It also kind of goes in along with like the GMMTV initiative of like, trying to like show the public, the audience that, like you can be accepted. It's...
Well, on that front, like Thailand is a bit more progressive than a lot of the other countries in Asia when it comes to LGBTQ. Like they're legalizing gay marriage. Like they're kind of on the forefront of them of that when, especially when it's, you know, you compare it to like Korea or Japan, where it's still not made its way fully into pop culture a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if the choice is just trying to make an evolution that fit more with where Thai culture sits in that conversation versus where Japanese culture sits in that conversation, because it's not the same place. They sit a little bit different evolutions of that.
Yeah. Which I also like that they actually use that one character to tell two different parts of the manga. So in the manga, it's Christmas time, and Aoki and Ida get in a fight, and Aoki like has to help his sister who owns a bakery sell Christmas cakes, which is a very Japanese culture type thing. Um, so and then Ida goes and like apologizes and then helps Aoki sell the cakes and stuff. That's part of the manga that they didn't have in the Japanese version. And so in this, the Thai version, they kind of put the counselor, and then that instead of like it being Adam's sister, it's the counselor's boyfriend, and Adam is working part-time at the, you know, at their little cafe, and they're selling these Christmas cakes and stuff. So it's like kind of a double storyline within the same characters. So then it just gives you more content and information without like having to put in like extra like excessive characters and scenes and things like that.
Well, that's the real challenge when it comes to like making an adaptation, especially from written material, whether it's a book or a comic or a manga or whatever, is trying to figure out how to pare down characters and how to get storylines, because, you know, page count versus like minute count on, you know, a TV screen, and your budget is wholly dependent on how many scenes you have to shoot. And when you have more characters, you have to shoot more scenes. And so it's a really hard job as a writer and filmmaker to go, all right, which characters are extra? Which can we just get rid of that aren't, you know, integral to the story? Which ones do we absolutely need? But then, you know, can we combine two characters here? And can we bridge two storylines? Can we steal a storyline C and put it in our storyline B to make it part of the love story, so that we can kind of have this economy of scene work and character work? Because otherwise you're just, it isn't just as easy as copying and pasting from the source material. Like a lot of people are like, oh, it's just IP from a book. You just take the book and you make it into a movie. It's very, very complicated, because you don't consume those types of media the same. The way you read a novel and get inside the character's head, you can't really do that. So some of the pleasures of some books are lost when they go to the screen. So it's actually nice to hear like they were able to combine some stories and characters and things in a smart way that kind of made things flow better and, you know, make the story even better than it was.
Yeah, I think they really did a good job in like including all the necessary information from your source material and making it their own and their like culture. And then like there are definitely moments where like it really got me, like the giddy moments, you know, that they got in there, which like sometimes was a little lacking in the Japanese version. Um, I do really like the Japanese version. I like the coupling. Um, and honestly, I prefer the acting in it. But there are things that they did change and include, and then just including all like the further parts of the manga into it. It gives you more story. I like that they developed Half and Matmi's characters and their like relationship. It just felt more like we were getting more for their coupling than we did in the Japanese version.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also like rooting for them too, and I like that they included the part where like Half meets Matmi's dad, who's like this, like he's like a stunt guy, but in his character, but then he's like really like he looks like a thug and he's kind of scary, and you know in the manga like Ida thought that he was gonna get killed by a yakuza. But you know, and Half had the same kind of feeling
Mm-hmm.
with Matmi's dad as well. I do have to say, in all three versions, I hated the most In the manga version, there's the snowboard camp, and that's where Ida like hits on the girl with like the boyfriend and stuff. And it's also where Aoki confesses to Ida that he has a crush on him and he actually does like him. Um, in the Japanese version, they have this like weird military like scavenger hunt thing in the mountains, right? And then in the Taiwan, they're also in the mountains at this like retreat. It's my most hated part in the whole story, even though it's a very essential part to their characters because it is where, Adam confesses to Kongtap and then, Aoki confesses to Ida, but I freaking hate the whole part of it. Like just that whole like the weird like cheesiness of the whole story. It's like I wish that they had found a better way. Like the author, the mangaka, I wish they had created a way better story than this like weird trip thing. But it was included like all three versions. I just hated.
You see that a lot in these like coming of age stories, though, like whether they're about high schoolers or college kids, and they're always going away to camp. They're always going away to like this retreat. Like even the corporate ones, they go away on corporate retreats, and they always end up at a cabin. It's like we used to watch Korean variety shows a little more than we do now, and they always go camping. It's like every Korean variety show, they got to have a camping scene. It's like, here's our camping episode. I'm like, is that like a mandate? Are you guys really trying to like push camping in the culture? Like it's strange to me, but it just seems like they're in all of them.
I'm not really sure how the Asian schools are, and like, but we do see like every single school atmosphere drama or movie they're going off to camp or some kind of retreat. And I've never really gone to any of those during my school time. And so it's kind of interesting. But like, it is fun to watch if they do it well. But just the whole, it wasn't written well in the manga. It wasn't done well in the Japanese one, and it wasn't done well in the Taiwan. And the Taiwan was very over the top and kind of weird when he like zip lines down to go get help because he's like knocked Kong Top out. It's so weird. It's just like,
I will say though, as a romance, especially at that age, there are a lot of first kisses that happen at camp. I can guarantee you that. Like even in Western culture, like a lot of first kisses have happened to your camp girlfriend or boyfriend.
Well, I was never allowed to go to camp. I was not allowed to socialize as a young person. My parents locked me out, but I have seen on MTV they had that camp reality show where everyone was hooking up with everyone.
Are you talking about Salute Your Shorts? That's not a reality show.
No.
How dare you?
No. No, on MTV there was this one. It was like a bunch of teenagers, and it's like camp, like summer camp, right. And they like literally, do all this stuff, like whatever projects, and they go swimming and all that stuff. But like literally, it was so much drama because everyone was hooking up with like another person, and then this person was cheating on that person, and it was drama central.
I think that one was called The Real Housewives of Sleepaway Camp.
No, stop. I'm gonna have to look it up because I watch this all the time. But anyway.
No, but I understand what they want to do. They want to get out of their same sets they're always going to shoot in, or the same get your characters away from home, get your characters to just kind of like free, because like that is the feeling of camp, is the idea that you're away from home, you're not with your normal friends, you meet new friends, and they have their camp girlfriend and boyfriend that you have for that week, and then you never see each other ever again. And so that feeling of like, when you're away from home, like different things are going to happen. You can be a different person a little bit, and maybe you do have the courage to tell the person you have a crush on that, hey, I'm into you, because it's not just at school in front of all your friends with everyone looking over their desks going, ooh, So I get the, idea behind it, I guess.
Yeah, well, it was done very cheesily in all three versions, and so I wish it was just better. Like it has nothing to do specifically with this Thai version. It was just honestly, it was written so weirdly. I'm not trying to offend, like, the fans of this mangaka, but I just, that particular whole idea is so, like, weird to me.
Right. So I want to go back to the tutor thing and the difference between the tutor and the counselor and this kind of, homophobic character turn that he does in the Japanese version and that they kind of got rid of in the Thai version. And it's something that is kind of coming up a lot lately because as culture moves forward, our stories have to adjust. We can't just tell the same exact stories we always told because the culture gets out in front of it. And I remember I watched something or read something recently that if you go back and watch, there was a movie in the 80s called 48 Hours. It was Nick Nolte and a very young Eddie Murphy. And turns into a buddy cop movie. But if you go back and watch it, Nick Nolte is a legit racist at the beginning of that movie. And his journey in the movie is from racist to kind of not racist, to like understanding that you can't judge a book by its color, you can't judge humans by their skin color. Like that, he learns that lesson. Nowadays, you can't really do that with a character because starting a character out racist in our personal culture of the times now here in America, your character is set so far behind the times, there's no way to redeem them, right? And so, us as culture, we learn things, and then as storytellers, we also have to move forward with it because if we tried to write 48 Hours exactly like it was then, and starting him out legit racist, well, what? So a San Francisco cop is like legit racist on the job, and we're gonna like root for that guy? I don't know. That's kind of not really redeemable. Like, there's not even a part of me that understands how to identify with that. Or maybe in the 80s, when people were a little more segregated, even still, and civil rights was still, in the recent memory of a lot of people, you can watch that movie and you can understand how he can learn to become a better person. And I think we're going through that in many phases of our society now, where some things that maybe that story's okay to tell within the context of the Japanese culture, but telling it in the context of the Thai culture would feel a little dated.
Yeah.
And it just was like, well, I don't know if I can root for that character now because, yeah, 10, 15 years ago, I knew people who thought that way. And some of them came around and some of them didn't. But now, do I know anyone that thinks that way? Not really. And so that's why sometimes I feel like we look back and we judge the past too harshly because we're like, oh my gosh, how on earth could they ever write this racist character? And you're like, well, at that point in the culture, the film industry, the writers are trying to bring the culture out of that. They're trying to tell the culture, look, this guy was really racist and he can come out of it. So can you in your own communities and your own hometowns. And so sometimes it's art dragging the culture along, kicking and screaming, and then sometimes it's the culture pushing the art. And we need both to happen.
Yeah.
And I really liked that this is a really good example of that, of them looking at the culture going, actually, here's what's right for our time and place when we're telling the story. Not necessarily judging the source material going, oh, that was a huge mistake. No, for us, this is the right way to do it. And I think you could learn a little bit by looking at some of those old movies. And if it makes you cringe, it should. It means we've made progress. It doesn't mean those movies are evil and they need to be taken off the shelves and no one needs to watch it. No, that worked. It actually brought us forward the way it was supposed to. And the fact that you find that reprehensible now means we did a good job.
Yeah. I also really like to see all the different cultural changes in this drama. And back when we were talking about Cherry Magic in the Thai version compared to the Japanese version, I liked seeing all the different cultural changes within the story. It's like, yes, they have the same source material, but they have to change it to fit their culture. And so I there's this drama called Scarlet Heart. The original is the Chinese version, and it's based off of, I mean, it's like fantasy and fiction, but the kings, like the figures, are based off of real people, right? And so, and like real incidents within like the history of the government, right? And so when they made the Korean version, they had to change a lot of stuff to fit the Korean culture and their government. And a lot of the Chinese fans were very upset, and they said the Korean version ruined their story. They didn't follow like what their Scarlet Heart was. But it's like, again, it's their culture. It's like you can't do Chinese history in the Korean government because that's not the same.
Well, it's not their history.
It's not their history. And so, and again, surprise, GMMTV Thailand is doing their version of Scarlet Heart. It's in the works right now, and then we're gonna see, the Thai version and the Thai culture and bringing it in their culture, and we're gonna see a lot of differences and changes and things like that. And some people may not like watching all the different versions, and just like, oh, they're copying and they're adapting and they can't do their own, their own stuff. But it's like you have good source material, and it's a way to just kind of create your own culture and like,
Yeah, you put your own spin on it, your own stamp on it, and your own authorship of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people get wrong about adaptations is they think, oh, well, here's the version, the new version of the old thing. And really, as someone looking to adapt something, the only thing you need to take from the original is kind of the concept, the character dynamic, or the summary that we read talking about this one. It's a mistaken identity love story between four different people, right?
Not really mistaken identity per se.
Well, it is, because I think you like this person, and oh, actually, I thought you liked him, but you like him, and it's just like this. That's the concept of the show. That's how it gets kicked off, and then we have these relationships. What they do, the beats of the story, doesn't have anything to do with an adaptation. You can throw all of it away after you kind of find the concept. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about adaptation. You're not just waiting to watch the same meet cute scene you saw in this one. You're not sitting there waiting, oh, remember that scene on the beach with these two? Oh, I can't wait for that scene on the beach. They might not have a scene on the beach. It's that scene on the beach is not being adapted. The concept and the story and the relationships and the dynamics are being adapted. And I think we all forget that. And we're now living in such a global world where we're seeing things adapted, but not quite as much as we did. Like it used to be, if something came out in one country, it was adapted by every single country across the globe. And you have an American version and a Canadian version and a Mexican version and a Brazilian version. And now with Netflix kind of being global, you see a little more international stuff sneaking our way and a little more of our stuff sneaking their way. And so now what happens is like they don't get adapted. So you don't take those things and replace the different cultures in them.
Like Meteor Garden, like every country has their own Meteor Garden or their own Love from Another Planet.
Yeah. Yeah, but they have to change them because it's the way courtship works. Like just take that for like the smallest example. The way courtship works, you cannot tell me it works the same in every country. It just doesn't. Like some countries, I mean, Aziz Ansari did a whole book about modern romance, about how different romance is in Japan versus Brazil versus the UK versus the US. And you can't just say, oh yeah, no, well, this is how like people meet and get together. Like, no, that's how you do it. And if we're going to adapt it and set it in my world, now it has to be relevant to me. And it doesn't shit on the source material. It just adapts it. That's what an adaptation is. So I really don't like adaptation hate unless someone is just not sticking to the spirit of what the story is. Like, we watched an adaptation this week, and it was the original.
It was the original.
We watched Infernal Affairs
again,
seen it about 1 million times. And for those who don't know, Infernal Affairs is the source material for the Hollywood film The Departed. And they did take the concept for The Departed. It's the ultimate concept is still alive in it. But I think both of us felt like the subtlety and the power of it was lost a little bit in like Hollywood sensationalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so, needless to say, both of us like the original much better than the adaptation, but you have to acknowledge it's the same story. It's just given this massive Hollywood twist, and your Jack Nicholson is chewing up scenes, and Mark Wahlberg is chewing up scenes, and like all these guys are just, they have so much to do.
Mark Wahlberg.
Wasn't he that?
That's Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hold on. No, he's in it too. You don't even know. Don't you fucking tell me. Don't you fucking tell me. DiCaprio, Damon, Wahlberg. He's given a bigger part. You know who he plays? He plays that
Gordon Lamb character.
Yeah, I think so. So do you think this will be the last adaptation of this? Is this a big enough source material that someone like, Taiwan or Korea or China or someone else picks this story up and does it again? Is it Meteor Garden, or is it not really that?
I don't know what other country would do this. I guess maybe Taiwan, but I feel like Taiwan's been doing a lot of their own stuff, and then also they've been adapting some Chinese like web novels for like BL content. I don't know if they'll do a version of this, but maybe. Like I could see Taiwan doing it. But I don't really see a Chinese version of it. If we were to see it again, I think it would be like a Chinese collab with Thailand and Taiwan, kind of like Meet You at the Blossom, where it's like considered a Thai production,
right?
With Taiwanese director and then Chinese actors, and it's like not aired in China. A lot of like the BLs now are starting to be like that. This is kind of Chinese platforms getting their way around the Chinese censorship by, labeling.
Co-producing with other countries, yeah.
Yeah, so even now, I'm watching like, I think it's like You're the Only One or something, which is like, it's a Taiwanese production with like a Chinese, one of the actors is Chinese, and it's like aired on iQIYI and things like that. Like recently there was another BL that was taken down like after 4 episodes aired on iQIYI, so it's still like, I don't know. It's still kind of a mess with the censorship thing, but
well, I will say anytime you put government in charge of anything in our entertainment industry, it's going to be a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess here. I mean, I remember before this is so long ago. This is before 9/11 happened. The big thing in the news, the big thing Congress was worried about was censoring the film industry, was regulating the film industry. And it was on both sides. It was Republican, it was Democrat. They were coming after the film industry. And then 9/11 happened, and that all kind of got put, to the back burner. And now that streamers no longer have to really live by the same rules as broadcast, it's kind of all a moot point. But anytime the government gets involved in telling us what we can and cannot watch, we're kind of in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, considering they're trying so hard to get TikTok taken away, but...
Well, I think the problem is, with the TikTok thing, they're worried about, stoking political fires. And yeah, that's what they're worried about with entertainment too. The problem is that people in politics, there's 2 things they don't understand: technology and entertainment and art. They just don't understand those things. So asking a politician to make judgments on a creative field is insane, because they aren't absorbing even half of what's in it. And so all you're doing is asking filmmakers to be more subtle, to, be trickier. I mean, South Park even said it. They would get around the censors by making their show worse. They would just make it more vulgar. And they were like, it was ridiculous. Like every time they sent South Park the movie to get rated, it would get rated NC-17. And then they would just put more bad stuff in it. And then sooner or later, they just got sick of watching it. And so they just gave it a rated R version. And they put it out. He goes, if they would have just let us put out the first version, it was the mildest version of the movie. But if you're going to do that to us, we're going to screw you over back. So that's what's really bummed me out about some of the Chinese censorship stuff, is that you're starting to like, oh, I know who's going to die, because like if that character doesn't die, this will never pass the censorship. And it's like, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's why everything seems so repetitive, and so like the topics are the same and storylines are the same, because you have to do it a certain way, otherwise you don't get it past. I don't know. Whatever. Uh totally
Yeah,
off
we went
that
off topic
subject.
there a little bit. But, you know, I was just curious about this thing as far as like its cultural impact, I guess, because I did not watch this one. If it wasn't clear to anyone listening, I did not actually see this one, and I'm always interested when something is a manga, and then it's turned into a show, and then it's adapted again. You're, oh, is this the start of a wave, or is this have an audience that they're really reaching, and that's kind of it?
I don't know if this reached as many people as Cherry Magic. Like Cherry Magic is one of those that's going to be like
Done and redone.
done and
Yeah.
redone and redone and redone. Honestly, I think Unknown will be on that level.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my love mix up would be.
Interesting. So what did you think of it? What did you rate this one? I'm not going to rate it because I didn't watch, so I don't think that's very fair. But it seems like you liked it more than you disliked it.
So for me, it's onboard karaoke, and I would have given it in the buffet line, but that first 4 episodes was a little just too over the top, a little too loud, and just hadn't found its footing yet.
Mm.
So I would say onboard karaoke.
Japanese one, Thai one, manga. Like, where do they sit in your memory of what you enjoyed the most?
I would say I prefer the Japanese version more, and it is actually one of my ones that I like. If I get really bored and I just want to watch something, like a BL that it's like kind of my guilty pleasure, I will put on the Japanese version. So I give the Japanese version a in the buffet line.
Okay.
It's not perfect by any means, but I do prefer it over the Thai version. And the manga one I do like because it's most complete, and it is the source material. But it's different because the emotions don't convey like actors convey it.
Of course.
So it's just a little bit harder to say, oh, I prefer the manga over either of the
right
two.
Well, it's in a column kind of on its own.
Yeah.
It feels like manga does cute really well, but
Yeah.
like deep emotion is a little bit more difficult.
I mean, there are ones that has gotten me, but as for this one, it is a lighthearted topic anyway. It's very cutesy. It's puppy dog love. It's, and there's not a whole lot of turmoil either. So in my opinion, I prefer the Japanese one and then the Thai one and then the manga. And I do have the full set on my bookshelf. I read it through. So I do like it enough to have bought the whole set. But it is one of those fluffy ones that that's what I like to repeat and rewatch over and over again, are the light fluffy ones, because they're easy to watch, and then it gives me the feels of like,
puts you in a good mood.
Yeah. So and honestly, I just like the acting of the two actors in the Japanese version more. They give you a little bit more like dynamic and a few more layers than Fourth and Gemini do. They're all young, so they, and I think as young actors go, Fourth and Gemini are really good. Especially in Moonlight Chicken, they were incredible. I also feel like you need the right director to pull those emotions out, and Off totally does that. And the director of My Love Mix-Up and My School President, which is Fourth and Gemini's first project, they're the same director, but I feel like in my school president, Fourth and Gemini had more to prove. And so their acting just was better, and it was their characters rather than having to redo a character that someone else played before.
Right.
So, we've seen Fourth and Gemini do better. I just feel like it took a while for them to get to where they needed to be in My Love Mix-Up. So my rec for this week it's also a manga. It is called After We Gazed at the Starry Sky by Kita Bisco. It's a light and fluffy one. Your lead character is paraplegic. He's in a wheelchair.
Okay.
He meets this photographer that he's like really liked. Like, I don't know if I would say idolized, but he's like a fan of this photographer. He meets him in person, they get to know each other, and then they start a relationship. It's very fluffy, it's very like lighthearted. There's not a whole lot of turmoil either. But all the feels are there, and I love their relationship and how it goes. So I recommend it if you like My Love Mix-Up. I think you'll like this one. So check it out.
Sweet. That wraps us up for this week. Thank you so much for listening. And if you aren't already following us on Instagram at DramaMeans_podcast and YouTube, make sure you're checking us out both places. And we'll see you there.
Thanks for listening.